Hey everybody, and welcome back to another episode of The Confusion Records. I'm your host, OC, and today's episode is going to be about everything that's happened politically since the election and what is expected to take place very, very, very soon in the future, as well as a little special feature after the show. So stay tuned and enjoy another episode of The Confusion Records.
Today, I would like to provide the American people with an update on the White House transition and our policy plans for the first 100 days. Our transition team is working very smoothly, efficiently, and effectively. Truly great and talented men and women, patriots indeed, are being brought in, and many will soon be a part of our government, helping us to make America great again. My agenda will be based on a simple core principle: putting America first. Whether it's producing steel, building cars, or curing disease, I want the next generation of production and innovation to happen right here on our great homeland, America.
And my hope is that the president-elect coming in takes a similarly constructive approach, finding areas where we can cooperate with Russia, where our values and interests align, but that the president-elect also is willing to stand up to Russia where they are deviating from our values and international norms. I don't expect that the president-elect will follow exactly our blueprint or our approach, but my hope is that he does not simply take a realpolitik approach and suggest that, if we just cut some deals with Russia, even if it hurts people, or even if it violates international norms, or even if it leaves smaller countries vulnerable.
This is not a game anymore. We are witnessing the construction of a global government through chaos and destruction around the world. Someone behind the scenes wants to create so much chaos that martial law will be established globally, and the US presidential election cancelled. Global elites want to try to create a type of civil unrest in the US to bring the America to its knees, just as they are destabilizing Europe in order to usher in their global agenda. Militarized vehicles with the United Nations logo have been spotted recently throughout the United States, and we continue to see the military equipment moved across the United States, Europe, and Asia. The US military and National Guard reserves has been readied for some sort of action. We saw on the internet so many military convoys and military hardware movement inside the US. This might sound crazy, but there are many people who intuitively feel that something big is going to happen. Multiple civilian sightings of strange planes landing at American Air Force bases, all carrying UN troops and having UN markings, or non-markings at all. The next step of the Illuminati is to begin full-scale civil unrest that will lead to martial law inside the US and in Europe, which is needed to collapse the US dollar and to start a direct confrontation against Russia and China.
Chemical and biological operations are suspended at FEMA's Center for Domestic Preparedness in Anniston following the report we told you about on Friday that thousands of first responders were exposed to potentially fatal levels of ricin. Melanie Posey has the latest.
Out of an abundance of caution, FEMA says it will suspend all of its chemical and biological operations at the Center for Domestic Preparedness in Anniston through at least January of next year. This is due to the ongoing investigation into how the CDP ended up with shipments of a more toxic form of ricin than it thought it had received. Officials say the discrepancy was discovered in November of this year. However, it appears the more toxic form has been used since 2011. In that time, it's believed over 9,500 first responders from around the country may have been exposed to the ricin. First responders here in the Birmingham area who have attended classes at the CDP say this situation does not change their outlook on the professionalism or the safety of the center.
The unclassified information about the drill was causing widespread alarm nationwide, with many analysts suggesting that it may be some sort of exercise practicing to impose martial law on American citizens who fed up with an out-of-control federal government. Local people had uncovered the information regarding the American and foreign troops training in Wyoming, not far from the Colorado border. Those troops were training for urban warfare within the United States. The people who saw this training with their own eyes said that urban warfare is being currently practiced against the American people in a mock town in Wyoming at a military base. People who saw the training, they saw the use of armored vehicles, 50 caliber weapons, and non-combat troops that are being cross-trained for urban warfare. Since Trump is taking over the US presidential office very soon, will they take action to stop him? During the FEMA and DHS exercises, special forces from various branches of the military will work with the local law enforcement in scenarios which are aimed at fighting against American civilians and states during a civil war or large-scale unrest. The federal government issued a response dismissing the concerns and saying that the training is to help the US forces to prepare for overseas missions. But not everyone is buying into that statement. Let's switch gears and look at the recent announcement about FEMA funding. The FEMA funding is intended to enhance preparedness and to build capacity for jurisdictions to address complex coordinated potential attacks across America. The FY 2016 SSTI program provides funding to local, state, and territorial jurisdictions of various types, sizes, and capabilities to improve their ability to prepare for, prevent, and respond to complex coordinated potential attacks in collaboration with the whole community. The possibility of a potential attack using biological or chemical weapons makes the focus of a 15-day NATO training exercise at Canada's largest training base, although people think that it is a low-risk threat. But the exercise, called Precise Response 2016 at Canadian Forces Base Suffield in southeastern Alberta, wasn't about high-tech military equipment or heavy armed soldiers. It was focused on chemical, biological, radiological, and explosive material. More than 350 chemical, biological, radiological, and nuclear specialists from 10 NATO countries, including from Canada, the United States, Britain, France, and Germany, were testing their skills in a realistic environment. Nearly all of the participants were wearing some sort of biohazard suit during 3 simultaneous exercises set in the imaginary country of Kazakistan. Teams investigated reports of suspicious activity and followed clues to chemical and biological weapons factories and eventually bring back material to mobile labs to check its content. Following the United States announcement for support, a set of principles that gives a green light for UN, United Nations military troops may soon officially be on the streets of the United States of America. Peacekeeping troops and police to use force to protect American citizens in armed conflicts. What armed conflicts are they talking about? US Ambassador Samantha Power told attendees at an important UN meeting that the United States was proud and humbled to be included in the new agenda and promised to follow by the 18 pledges. The arrival of the United Nations requires federalization of police in order to set a global standard of law of enforcement. More federalization of local police collaborated with the arrival of the United Nations military. could mean big trouble for liberty and freedom in America. We saw so many videos on the internet documenting the slow-moving invasion of the United Nations military vehicles. The UN military vehicles have been spotted in multiple US cities. The white trucks equipped with large off-road tires were seen being transported inside the United States of America. Those white trucks appear to be pit bull SWAT truck models. This is not the first time American politicians have attempted to sell their citizens to the powers of the United Nations. The UN's first attempt to capture America was in 1951 under a top-secret program titled Operation Aggressor. UN peacekeepers from 29 countries are now required to act in cases where American people are in danger. The Pentagon has approved a scheme allowing UN peacekeeping troops to police the US citizens. The federal government has announced their support for a set of principles that allow UN troops to police and use force in order to protect US citizens in the event of an armed conflict. Just connect this bit of information with the dollar collapse and stock market crash. This is what the elite is preparing for. President Obama has signed an executive order that allows for the US military to use force against American citizens for the first time in our history. The order was signed on July 1st, 2016 and is titled Executive Order: United States Policy on Pre- and Post-Strike Measures to Address Civilian Casualties in US operations involving the use of force. The order, it looks like that the rules of engagement are for the military vs ordinary US citizens. People were demanding clarity from the United Nations on rules of engagement, namely under which circumstances the use of force is appropriate against the US citizens. The response was that the UN decides the rules of engagement. The UN will decide when force is appropriate, and the UN can target anyone they deem to be a threat. All this information comes from the UN's High Commissioner for Human Rights.
Resolution to pass in the United Nations.
The frayed relationship between the Obama administration and one of the United States' closest allies, Israel.
The vote in the United Nations was about preserving the two-state solution.
Mr. Obama allowed the resolution to pass, an historic moment.
Israel's future is a Jewish and democratic state, living side by side in peace and security with its neighbors.
And for John Kerry to defend it, and for him not to try to stand against it and veto it, is a betrayal of our ally.
And virtually every country in the world other than Israel opposes settlements.
It's not often we see this much tension between the U.S. and Israel.
Religious leaders are responding with outrage as the world watches this unfold.
I don't think a lot of people fully understand the complexity of this. I'm going to just quickly show you this little map. All that green, those are Arab Muslim countries. You can't even see it, but there's a tiny little red dot right there. That's Israel.
Through the month of December, while Aleppo fell, while we watched Arab children being bombed to smithereens, they're sitting and helping to craft and push a resolution against the Jews. It rings of all the wrong messages of this blame for the Jewish entity.
But there is something new here. Common interests have created real possibilities for something different if Israel takes advantage of the opportunities for peace.
They brokered a deal with Iran that praised for the death of Israel. There were ballistic missile tests earlier this year that carried the Hebrew message, Israel must be wiped out. And as a nation, we're sending $1.7 billion in pallets of cash to Iran as a ransom.
The idea that we are funding terrorism, the idea that that's the great diplomatic achievement of this administration, but now to end the administration with a diplomatic assault on Israel when there hasn't been one United Nations Security Council resolution against Syria.
Now 2016 could be a defining year for Iraq.
Taken on their greatest security challenge in recent years.
Well, the news of Syria's war continues to make headlines around the globe.
We have set for ourselves 17 ambitious goals. If we are to achieve them, this has to be an international movement, a coming together of people, a rallying around a common cause on a scale that we have never witnessed before in our history.
It is the only way to ensure Israel's future as a Jewish and democratic state, living in peace and security. Is ours the generation that gives up on the dream of a Jewish democratic state of Israel, living in peace and security?
For one reason or another, many people seem to think 2016 was an exceptionally bad year.
Yeah, it was terrible personally and publicly.
Flooding is just something they have to deal with.
It does get worse every year.
Now, George Washington University is no longer requiring history majors to take U.S. history. The college following the lead of 1/3 of the country's top schools.
It's a new policy the university says will help students keep pace with a, quote, globalizing world.
I wish I would say it's silliness or insanity, but it is now the standard.
Yeah.
I mean, it is what is being taught across not just elite universities, but universities everywhere. It's why we get Bernie Sanders on the Democrat side, because you have a bunch of kids thinking they're global citizens that don't understand their own country, they don't understand capitalism, they don't understand the Constitution, so they're seduced by these utopian ideas.
You know, if you don't know it, you don't keep it. Yeah. That is exactly their goal. This is anti-American to take U.S. history out of history majors around the country, not just at George Washington University. I mean, we've seen around the country these campaigns to take down the American flag. We've seen these campaigns to take down the shield at Harvard because it represented slave owners who founded the school. I mean, they're erasing history because they don't want American history to thrive and to be part of our country. They're erasing it because it's anti-American.
It was truly disturbing to see a city so on the edge.
The shooter popped out of the car and shot.
We were astonished by data we obtained from inside the police department. It revealed that as killings rose, police activity fell.
Former police superintendent Gary McCarthy tells 60 Minutes the problems can't be overstated.
We're reaching a state of lawlessness, right? That's what's happening. And crime skyrocketing, that's a huge problem.
Some people looking at the Chicago Police Department have said it's in crisis.
Crisis is a good word.
It's a story people all over the country are talking about right now.
After a night of countless fights inside shopping malls across the country,
I think everybody's emotions are really high right now. So I think it's just like I said, it's the time that we live in, and I think all us innocent bystanders, just our reactions is very quick. Everybody's assuming something could happen.
A New Year's Eve celebration turns deadly in Istanbul after a terror attack inside a crowded nightclub.
Turkey's biggest cities have been hit by several attacks over the last few months. Closed-circuit TV pictures show a gunman firing in the street outside the club.
There's a mystery in the waters off Nova Scotia. There is growing concern about thousands of sea creatures washing up dead on their shores.
They have been finding dead herring on the beach for more than a month, but recently other marine life has started appearing ashore.
Then yesterday we started finding scallops on the beach. Nice big scallops, and everything's dead. We'd like to know what's going on.
So at least for now, the mystery continues to baffle residents and social media commentators alike.
Well, if you live on the water in eastern Baltimore County, you may be seeing something that's rather unpleasant. Thousands of dead fish are washing up on shore.
Fish are dying by the thousands.
Something is just killing them. They're washing them up. They're coming in here just like starving for oxygen and turning over and just rolling over and dying.
Chuck Adams first noticed the fish kill on Christmas Day. Deaths that so far remain a mystery.
No, it'd just be nice to find out what's going on. We're all very concerned, all of us, the neighbors, everybody's been out here looking to see what's going on. We just don't know.
Parts of California and Nevada were shaken this past week by a swarm of earthquakes.
On the series of earthquakes that rocked the California-Nevada border.
Overnight earthquakes waking up the California-Nevada border. The State Geological Survey recording the strongest cluster, ranging from a magnitude 5.7 to 5.5 on the Richter scale.
A 7.6 magnitude earthquake hit the island of Chiloé, a famous tourist spot in Chile, on Christmas Day.
Magnitude 3.3 earthquake shook 5 miles from Malibu this morning. The epicenter was 13 miles from Agora Hills, 14 miles from Thousand Oaks. In the last 10 days, there was another magnitude 3 earthquake nearby.
Airstrikes have again pounded several Syrian towns in rebel-held Idlib province and rural Aleppo.
His dash cam caught this quick flash in the night sky, a meteor falling on the horizon.
If it's an out-of-this-world New Year's celebration you're after, all you have to do is look to the cosmos. A comet is set to journey near the moon this New Year's Eve, helping us ring in 2017.
We've been down this road before, haven't we? How many people got so excited? 2011. Then 2012. Wasn't the world supposed to end in 2012 with the Mayan calendar? Remember that one? Wow. Then 2013, then 2014, then 2015, then 2016, and here we are in 2017 almost. And I'm basically saying the same thing now that I said back then. Be very careful. And that is the non-believer who just looks and goes, wow. I mean, we get lumped in with the likes of a Harold Camping. Remember that guy? I mean, you Christians are all the same. I think that we have to be intelligent. You know, God's given us an intellect. When you come to Christ, you don't assassinate your intellect, as one said. God has given us a wonderful and really phenomenal mind. The ability to reason. And I think we have to be very reasonable.
Now, one thing we do know, if Israel goes down the one-state path, it will never have true peace with the rest of the Arab world.
And virtually every country in the world other than Israel opposes settlements.
Wow, so there you go. I can't believe it myself, and I made the video. So what do you guys think? Please weigh in, put your comments in the description below, and let us know what you think. Please click like, subscribe, and share this video with your friends. Now, as promised, here is the special feature. Now, what this is just some words from JFK, where he was explaining to us what was going to be coming, and now it's here. So it's pretty irrefutable. So I thought you guys might enjoy it. So here you go. Thanks so much, guys. Again, click like, subscribe, and share this video with your friends.
I believe that the President of the United States should be the honorary chairman of a great fraternal organization and confine himself to ceremonial functions. But that isn't what the Constitution says. And I did not run for President of the United States to fulfill that office in that way. Harry Truman once said there are 14 or 15 million Americans who have the resources to have representatives in Washington to protect their interests. And that the interests of the great mass of the other people, the 150 or 60 million, is the responsibility of the President of the United States, and I propose to fulfill it.
A common danger. The events of recent weeks may have helped to illuminate that challenge for some. But the dimensions of its threat have loomed large on the horizon for many years. Whatever our hopes may be for the future, for reducing this threat or living with it, there is no escaping either the gravity or the totality of its challenge to our survival and to our security. A challenge that confronts us in unaccustomed ways in every sphere of human activity.
It appears as though something has happened in the motorcade route.
November 22nd, 1963.
This deadly challenge imposes upon our society two requirements of direct concern, both to the press and to the President. Two requirements that may seem almost contradictory in tone, but which must be reconciled and fulfilled if we are to meet this national peril. I refer first to the need for far greater public information, and second, to the need for far greater official secrecy.
A crushing blow to the country and a personal affront to FBI agent Don Adams.
Oh, it shocked me. It devastated me. And I thought to myself, what did I do wrong?
Adams is retired, but still can't shake the assassination or investigation by the Warren Commission.
Nothing but a bunch of liars.
The very word secrecy is repugnant in a free and open society. And we are, as a people, inherently and historically opposed to secret societies, to secret oaths, and to secret proceedings. We decided long ago that the dangers of excessive and unwarranted concealment of pertinent facts far outweighed the dangers which are cited to justify it.
The Warren Commission determined that Lee Harvey Oswald fired the fatal shots from the Texas Book Depository. But Adams says the real person behind the plot isn't even mentioned in their report.
I know for a fact in my heart that these
Even today, there is little value in ensuring the survival of our nation if our traditions do not survive with it. And there is very grave danger that an announced need for increased security will be seized upon by those anxious to expand its meaning to the very limits of official censorship and concealment. That I do not intend to permit to the extent that it's in my control.
It's embarrassing because I love the FBI. It's a great organization, best law enforcement agency in the business. But we also have to face facts and reality that there are bad people. Reported to be one of the most violent men in the country.
A militant activist with ties to hate groups like the KKK. November 1963, an FBI informant named William Somerset said Miltier was threatening JFK.
Saying bad things about what they wanted to do to Kennedy.
And no official of my administration, whether his rank is high or low, civilian or military, should interpret my words here tonight as an excuse to censor the news, to stifle dissent, to cover up our mistakes, or to withhold from the press and the public the facts they deserve to know.
Miltier frequently discussed assassinating President Kennedy. A threat was even captured on tape by Miami intelligence officers November 9th, 1963, just weeks before Dallas. Miltier is talking to Somerset.
Well, how the hell do you do the best way would be to come out still to the high heart, right? And they're going to really try to kill him.
For we are opposed around the world by a monolithic and ruthless conspiracy that relies primarily on covert means for expanding its sphere of influence, on infiltration instead of invasion, on subversion instead of elections, on intimidation instead of free choice, on guerrillas by night instead of armies by day.
He describes smuggling a gun into the building.
It is a system which has conscripted vast human and material resources into the building of a tightly knit, highly efficient machine that combines military, diplomatic, intelligence, economic, scientific, and political operations. Its preparations are concealed, not published. Its mistakes are buried, not headlined. Its dissenters are silenced, not praised. No expenditure.
I should have stopped the president from traveling instantly.
It didn't, and November 22nd, Miltier is photographed near the motorcade moments before the assassination.
They messed up, and all the other agencies messed up.
Is there any way Lee Harvey Oswald could have killed John F. Kennedy?
No. Had nothing to do with it.
No feature is questioned, no rumor is printed, no secret is revealed. No president should fear public scrutiny of his program, for from that scrutiny comes understanding, and from that understanding comes support or opposition, and both are necessary. I am not asking your newspapers to support an administration, but I am asking your help in the tremendous task of informing and alerting the American people. For I have complete confidence.
Don says evidence he saw while stationed in Dallas proves it, beginning with the Zapruder film.
And all of a sudden I saw the president go like this with his hands. And I said, Hal, I said, he was shot in the throat. The agent said to me, Don, be careful what you say. And there were no shots from the front.
But Don says this photo shows a bullet hole through the windshield.
The very first thing that the doctor said was, Hal, he was shot in the throat. That's a bullet hole. The minute that you have a frontal shot, Oswald can't be the shooter, because this came from a grassy knoll. And Oswald was in Texas School Book Depository.
The Warren Commission ruled that 3 shots were fired, but Don counted 11. And at the book depository, he wondered how Oswald did that in 7.5 seconds from a bolt-action rifle.
And the response and dedication of our citizens, whenever they are fully informed. I not only could not stifle controversy among your readers, I welcome it. This administration intends to be candid about its errors. For as a wise man once said, an error doesn't become a mistake until you refuse to correct it.
Because I was in Korea and I know what I'm talking about.
He also says, unbeknownst to many people, another weapon seen here was also recovered.
The first weapon they found in the building was a Mauser. And nobody ever discussed that.
Witnesses reported Oswald was in the lunchroom 4 floors down on the opposite side of the building drinking a Coke after the first shot.
No heavy perspiration or heavy breathing or anything. Couldn't have been done. It was impossible.
Afterward, while Oswald was arrested, Miltier was, quote, jubilant, bragging to Somerset, "You thought I was kidding when I said he would be killed from a window with a high-powered rifle." He told sources in the KKK, "Don't worry about Oswald. He doesn't know anything."
We intend to accept full responsibility for our errors, and we expect you to point them out when we miss them. Without debate, without criticism, no administration and no country can succeed, and no republic can survive. That is why the Athenian lawmaker Solon decreed it a crime for any citizen to shrink from controversy. And that is why our press was protected by the First Amendment, the only business in America specifically protected by the Constitution.
All this stuff bothers me.
Upsetting to many people, in 1976, the U.S. House of Representatives Select Committee on Assassinations was established. They determined a shot was fired from the grassy knoll and in summary believed, quote, on the basis of evidence available, President Kennedy was probably assassinated as a result of a conspiracy, though they were unable to identify the other gunmen. Was Joseph Miltier involved or someone else? Don thinks time will tell, but it's also running out.
I mean, when we die off, when we're gone, there's not going to be anybody who's going to sit here and tell you these things. I hope the truth gets told, whatever it is.
Not primarily to amuse and entertain, not to emphasize the trivial and the sentimental, not to simply give the public what it wants, but to inform, to arouse, to reflect, to state our dangers and our opportunities, to indicate our crises and our choices, to lead, mold, educate, and sometimes even anger public opinion. This means greater coverage and analysis of international news, for it is no longer far away and foreign, but close at hand and local. It means greater attention to improved understanding of the news, as well as improved transmission. And it means, finally, that government at all levels must meet its obligation to provide you with the fullest possible information outside the narrowest limits of national security. And so it is to the printing press, to the recorder of man's deeds, the keeper of his conscience, the courier of his news, that we look for strength.
We can make a difference, but we must speak up.